Hello and welcome back to awtoolbox.com. My name is Glenn Keller, and in this demonstration we are learning about Active Workspace client development. And in this demonstration we've already learned a little bit about the folders, the contents, the kind of where things are, and we've executed and learned how to run some scripts inside of the terminal, as well as launching Visual Studio Code and setting up the terminal itself. So in this demonstration, we're going to take this a step forward, and we're going to talk about the concept of modules. So before we get into all of the different utility calls and scripts that we can run, we just want to talk about how things are gathered together in here and how our customizations or our custom modules are put into place. So in here we have the stage folder, and then we have the source folder underneath of it. And our goal is to add a new folder in here, and our new folder is going to be T7 underscore module. So T7 module is going to be what we're gearing up for. And that T7 module is going to contain some of the configurations for a new command. So our goal for this module is to come in here and create a command that's going to fit right here in the interface. For the time being, we'll either have it throw an alert or just kind of do the boilerplate code. So in order to do this, we have to learn a couple of things. And so first of all, there are some legacy commands that still work inside of the system. And we're going to start by utilizing those commands to see what that gives me. And then we're going to take a look at some of the new commands that we're able to run. For instance, the AW command that allows me to do different things. And we're going to compare and contrast what we're given. So to start with, the first thing that you need to know is that a module contains all of your customizations. So your customizations. So commands, different types of workspaces, etc. And in a module, for it to be included in the build, then you need to have some sort of reference. And that reference is called a kit. It's referenced as a kit.json. The kit calls to which modules are in the kit. The kit has dependencies, and the build looks for that during the build. So we're going to have to build the kit, and we're going to have to build the module, and then we're going to have to build any of the customizations we want to add to it. So to begin with, in the older method, to create a new module or a kit, you would have to have a kit to add it to first. Now, if you don't define a kit, then it's going to add it to the out-of-the-box kit, which is in this solution folder in the kit.json. So if you don't define a kit, you'll get an addition here for the object that you're adding. Now, I don't like to do that because when you patch Teamcenter or Active Workspace, a lot of the times what that's going to do is update this kit.json. So you'll have more to make sure is in here. Now, if you do want to do that, you'll have to source control this file and just update it, compare it to the one that's being patched, and update it accordingly. Now, in our case, we're going to try and keep this completely modular. So I'm going to type npm run generate module. Now this is the method that we've been using since 4.3 of Active Workspace. So 4.3 all the way through 6.3, 23.12, 24.12, and now 25.06. But this is not the way that Siemens indicates in the documentation. So if I hit enter here, it's going to ask me what to create. And there's a whole bunch of different things I can build on the left-hand side. But no matter what I'm building, I need to first generate a kit, which if I scroll up is right here. And what I need to do is provide the value in blue. So I'm going to type kit, case sensitive, hit enter, and the name of the kit is going to be T7 kit. Now, this just needs to be a unique name against other kits in the system. If I add my prefix to the kit, then I can be assured that there isn't going to be any other modules with that name. Now, I could do something like T7 command kit if I wanted to. I don't have to keep that name, but I like kit here as the name. So in here, that has now created a kit. So you can see I've got a folder here with a kit.json. That gives a couple of different attributes, a priority level. Kit dependencies is the base of Active Workspace, which is TCAW solution. And then the name, which is T7 kit. So you don't do much with this one. At this point, the system will know it's there. And now you can create your module to store your customizations. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'll type CLS. And I'm going to say npm run generate module again. So now I'm going to create a module. Modules are defined right here. And now that I have a kit to add it to, it won't just update the out of the box one. So I'm going to say module all lowercase. I'm going to name it my T7 module. And then at that point, it's going to ask for which kit to apply it to. So it's giving me the option to pick one or the other, whereas if I didn't have a custom one, it wouldn't have had an option and it would have auto-selected the TCAW solution one. So in this case, I'm going to pick T7 kit as my option, and you'll notice that the T7 module has been added on the left-hand side. If I look at this and select the module.json file that gets generated inside of it, you can see that it stores the name and description of the module in here. The kit.json for my T7 now understands that there is a module that is dependent upon it. So if I take this kit, it doesn't have to be in its own folder. I would typically cut this and then paste it onto this other folder. And then I'll delete the T7 kit folder. All right, so now I've got a standalone module with its own kit, its own module, and I'm ready to begin adding customizations to this module. So again, still working through this old mechanism of building out a customization. The next thing that I'm going to build is just our first example for a customization. It's the easiest one, and it's what we talked about earlier. I'm going to add a command to it. And if I just look up here, command is one of the types that you can create when you're building with that generate module. There are other ways to create commands. Siemens has put a lot of effort into the command builder tool that's available now in Active Workspace, so we're going to check that out later on. But if we just want to get down and dirty and create one, it's going to be npm run generate module again. And then I'm going to do command. Now in this case, I'm going to call it my T7 command. And I just need to pick an icon. I do have one that I prefer. It kind of stands out until I get my own. The out-of-the-box one that I like to use is the yellow glossy plastic one, which I will paste at the bottom of this. So if I scroll down, that's just basically the flat list of icons in this image folder here. So those icons are in this image folder, and if you expand the image folder, only the ones that start with CMD are exposed, so it's just showing you what you can use and what you can't. I'm using the CMD 12 yellow glossy plastic and pressing enter. Need to select the terminal first, and then it's going to ask me for a placement. Now, this common placements are section, this is really just what most recently used. So which ones have you utilized in the past? So if you haven't built a command yet, then you're not going to get any placements. Now, what you can do to find placements is come into Active Workspace, and no matter the browser or developer tool that you're using, come in and use developer tools in that browser, and then go to Elements. And whatever page you're on, identify the toolbar. In our case, it's going to be this one. And then in that one, you can right click and choose Inspect. Now that will open up the tools, the developer tools in the system. And you can see as I hover over things in this side, under the Elements tab, things begin to highlight. So my goal is to essentially just find the toolbar name in the system. And you'll see that it takes a little bit of fiddling. So I'm going to do a control find for anchor. So in that case, you can see anchor has 1 of 5. I'm going to use the down and up arrows over here just to kind of cycle through them. And you'll see that one highlights there. And then that one highlights there. So here you can see that anchor is AW Global Navigation Bar. Whereas if I went up one, anchor is Global Navigation Bar. So either way, these anchors are all on this ID, and I can grab by double clicking that value. So I'm going to Control C and copy it, come into here and paste that in here. So I've got the global navigation sticky bar as my command location. Now the sticky bar part is a little bit different. So if you were to come in and look at this one, notice it's navigation bar. So whichever one you want. I'm just going to go ahead and grab the bottom one, which is the AW navigation bar, which is the bottom area. So I'll come in, I'll replace the sticky bar with that and hit enter. So it tells you that it's not a known placement, and that's because it is not something you have used before, and that's absolutely okay. So in here, I have created a new command. If I go to my customizations, I'm going to close some of these open tabs. You can see it's enhanced my T7 module. So I can come in, I've got a commands view model now that breaks down the individual components of the command itself. One thing that you can take a note of right now is in the command placement section, there is an entry for the UI anchor, and that should match and put it into the correct place. So this so far has been a standard development. If I just go ahead and build it now, then I can test it in the system. So in the past, we have used several different utilities to build a set of customizations. In this case, we could use npm run audit to audit the definition. So this basically checks my code and makes sure everything is good. So once this runs through, then it will tell me whether or not my code passes any formatting checks or syntax checks to let me know if there's any errors with it. And then if it doesn't go through, I need to go back and troubleshoot a bit. Once this completes, we go into a build phase. So these commands are audit, then build, then publish. So the 3 commands that we're going to run in sequence are these 3 commands here. The build will take the longest, and then the publish is what actually pushes this content out to the client. It has finished its analysis. So at this point, I'm going to come in and do a build to see the next step. Now, there is a tool that allows you to combine all 3 of those elements, the audit, the build, and the publish, all equal AW build. So this tool will actually run the entire sequence, including the init script, to execute a build command. You could also do what I'm doing, which is piecemeal them out and ensure that each individual component of the build works. Now, once it runs, you can see it spits out all of the kits, and it has found my T7 kit in the build. It also does some pre-checks against the available memory on the system. If you have any issues with like a time loop assertion failing or something along those lines, typically that has something to do with your clock on your machine or the amount of resources you have allocated to the build. We're going to go ahead and let this build run. Typically this will run for a few moments, 5 minutes or so is kind of the average for the different environments. It does a full build here and then we can publish. Now, in future videos, we will take a look at optimizing this build process using what's called a dev server so that we can build a little quicker in between sets and not have to wait so long to see our iterative changes. But for now, we're going to do it the long way and just kind of learn the ways that we can make the process better. Let's go ahead and pause here and we'll come back and we'll look at what happens in the next step. All right, so the build goes through, and right after what we talked about, it did give me a couple of warning messages here. Command open 24 SVG CMD settings, CMD print and export is included in multiple bundles. So all this means is that out of the set of builds, these icons are duplicated, and it's going to ensure that the final build doesn't have them duplicated. It compiled with those warnings, but that is perfectly fine. And then what we're going to do is now do an npm run publish. And what this is going to do is this is going to take everything in all of those modules, my T7 module, as well as the stuff that is inherited from the source repo location, all of these modules. It's going to build out a output, and that output is going to be in this folder under the out directory, and you'll see it get zipped up here. So this site.zip will get created, and then it will essentially upload them. And where it uploads them to in this architecture is the C-apps Siemens and then your environment. So again, we had a TC root issue on the install. So this is actually 2506. We've showed it on multiple occasions. And then in here, it's going to put it into my file repository. So my repository is right here. It's called file repo. And this is where my microservices in the system are pulling the Active Workspace interface from. It's going to copy the new site.zip and site.dev and the Darcy. And what it's going to do is extract them. And there is a service called the Teamcenter Process Manager, which is essentially hosting that information. And what it's going to do is basically update it in that place so that this service can read the new information, and when we refresh the client, we should get that new streamed data. So in here, you'll be able to see the output as it goes through. It's zipping up the Darcy repo files, which we'll talk about in future videos. That's the equivalent of doing the customizations using the interface versus using the backbones. Then it will build the site.zip and it will upload them to the repository and then do a publish. So we're going to go ahead and pause for a moment, let that pick up. It usually takes a couple of minutes, and then we'll take a look at the result. All right, so now the publish has completed, and you can see a couple of things in the output here. We have the publish or upload to those locations. And then it tells you how to access them. And in this case, that's my Active Workspace URL. It shows the zip files being updated. And if I were to go to the site and information, you can see that in this file repo, the new dates align here. If we go out of that file repo and we go up to the AWS2 stage out directory, you'll see the site is new. A couple of seconds after the 8:32, or a couple of minutes before the 8:32 p.m. zip, So you can kind of watch as it created the site folder and then zipped it up and then sent it to the repo. And if I go ahead and hit refresh in my browser window here, just hit refresh here, we should see the new icon show up in the list. Now we can play around with priorities, move it up and down, but essentially this new one, if I click it, throws a hello T7 command alert. So I can close my developer tools and I've got that command there. Now what we're going to look at next is how we can do a removal of this module, so take it out of the system completely. And then we're going to come back through and reiterate with some of the new commands that the Siemens documentation provides.